want to be that booby. I saw this dress on Pinterest and I immediately needed it. On an emotional, spiritual, kind of visceral level, I needed this dress. It dug its way so far into my brain that I could think of nothing else for the next couple of days. Have I ever made something without a pattern before? No, absolutely not. But do I have all of the audacity to try anyway? Yes. So that's what we're gonna do today. I found a pattern that I have already because I don't wanna pay for another pattern just to make a dress that I don't know is actually gonna look good on me at the end because, you know, expectation versus reality, is it gonna line up? I mean, the model looks gorgeous. Total goddess. But will it look like that on me? We will find out. So anyway, pattern that I already had, pattern hacked for the first time in my life. So we changed a scoop neck to a square neck and adjusted the sleeves. I didn't do a mock-up for the sleeves though. I did a mock-up for the bodice, but not the sleeves. So we'll see if I regret that decision later on. We have our fabric, which is not the same as what the model used, but it does make it a bit more summery. I call it gingham. My partner likes to refer to it as picnic table. So we have our picnic table fabric. We have our adjusted pattern, and we're gonna cut this out and see if I can throw together a dress that looks even vaguely like the inspiration picture. Let's go. So we're starting off strong with the most tedious part of sewing. And this is usually where I throw an internal hissy fit because I was born into a normal family instead of a wealthy one, and I'm too poor to afford a print shop to print my patterns. Now I've cut out my size, but instead of altering the original pattern, I'm going to trace it onto some paper that I bought off Temu because I'm a tight ass and I didn't want to shell out for the good stuff. It also means that if I royally screw this up, I can start over without having to go through the hell of taping up the pattern all over again, because I really don't want to have to do that. I didn't adjust too much with the neckline, but I did square it off to match the original inspiration photo. I really just winged it with this part and hoped for the best, but at least I used a ruler to make sure my lines were straight. That's a bit of personal growth for me. We're on day 2 of sewing this dress from Pinterest that I'm obsessed with. Last night I managed to get my pattern traced out. I transferred it onto just some brown craft paper, changed the neckline to what I think will work, and then cut out my sheet. I didn't do the sleeves yet because, to be perfectly honest, I just couldn't be bothered last night. Sorry, Teddy is singing the song of her people in the background. I'm pretty sure she's trying to tell me no, it's too early for food, so I don't know what she's about. But I need to quickly stitch this together so I can see if this neckline is going to work and if the size that I cut out is correct. I did base it off my chest measurement and the measurement of the finished garment because I don't want it to be overly baggy. So we'll see if this works. So I have my English. I have my mock-up on. I think she's looking a bit basic, but I think it's gonna work for what I need. I really can't be bothered doing a mock-up for the sleeves. So we're just gonna knot and pray for the best. I like to live dangerously. But she is on. She is sitting exactly where I want her here. So I think I might raise the neckline by 1/2 inch for seam allowance, because I kind of do want it to just hit where it's currently sitting. And if I don't do that, I'm gonna end up dropping another 1/2 inch. And I think I don't want to be that booby. I liked being that booby in my 20s. My 30s are a different era, and I like having security and the knowledge that I'm not gonna fall out of my clothing. I'm gonna redo this, but I can't do it today because I have not pre-washed my fabric. Oh no! Past me already zigzagged it and washed it. I don't have to wash it. Yes! But that kind of means I have to keep working today, and I was all excited to finish. You know what? We still might just do it tomorrow, because when you can't be bothered, you can't be bothered. And right now I can't be bothered. So coffee, bye!
The last thing I had to do pattern-wise was to change the sleeve and give myself extra fabric to pleat down. I went for an inverted box pleat on the top, or at least I think that's what it's called. I could be completely wrong. And again, I did this on paper so I could preserve the original pattern piece just in case. I also added a little bit of length to the sleeve because I wanted this dress to be more of a half sleeve like the original inspiration photo was. It did mean it was a bit of a process to pattern this out, so I think I put about 5 centimeters of width between the two pattern pieces that I cut apart, and then I measured down a little bit of extra space just to, as I said, give myself that extra length on the sleeve. Basically, I was just squaring off all of my lines, making sure everything matched up and was parallel. It was a little bit of a tedious task, but to be honest, with the way the sleeves turned out eventually, as you will see, I was pretty chuffed with how I did here. Having all of my pattern pieces done meant that I could get started on the lining, and I wasn't entirely sure at this point how much of my main fabric I actually had, so I did find a neutral homespun fabric in my stash, and I figured it was good enough for the lining of the bodice. I also had on my pattern pieces here, I added that extra centimeter at both the top and the bottom of the neckline, just so that I could ensure it was going to hit where I wanted it to hit once I got this sewn up. For marking out the darts on the bodice, I use water erasable pens that I got off Amazon because nothing beats next day delivery for me. It is seriously top tier. I don't think I could live without it. And I used the ruler again because apparently I can't mark in a straight line to save my life. And after that, it's just a matter of sewing together the darts and pressing them before I speed through sewing the shoulder seams and the side seams up.
I've just done the lining. I'm kind of treating it as a second mock-up essentially. So because I added a centimeter to the top neckline and the bottom of the bodice, I'm just going to test and make sure that that is still sitting correctly how I want it. And then I'm going to cut out the main fabric and the skirt panels. But the skirt panels kind of require some math, so I'm avoiding that. Wiggle it around. I added a centimeter down here and a centimeter here. because when I originally tried the first mock-up on, I liked where the neckline was sitting, but I hadn't accounted for seam allowance. So that should now sit a centimetre lower when it's on, which means my boobs are going to be secure. They ain't going to fall out, which is what we like. We don't want to be flashing anyone. Now that I have tried this on again, everything is fitting well. The back is also pretty much where I want it to be hitting. I am going to move along to the next stage, which is doing the shell.
So I won't bore you with showing you the exact same footage of me sewing up the shell that we already saw with the lining. We know it got sewn together and that's kind of good enough. The sleeves I pleated and basted in place, and then I sewed up the side seams of them before I started wiggling them into the sleeve head, I think is what you call it. Whatever that thing is, they got put in there with a couple of extra little pleats just to make them fit. This part of the night, I almost had a literal crash out over this happening. My machine decided to completely screw up on me and made a complete and utter mess of the second sleeve head when I sewed it in. So I had to fully unpick that and redo it, and I hated every second of it. But I did get it done, and once I was done, I started working on the lining. I attached that to the neckline all the way around so that I could flip it in. And then I also understitched the seam allowance to the lining just to stop it from peeking out and rolling when the dress was complete. She did not look impressed just
No,
then.
she was not happy.
She was like, what the fuck, Dad?
She dropped her toy.
So it's actually the next day. I finished the bodice last night, but after the I want to say shit show that I had with my machine cocking up that entire line of stitching while I was trying to put the sleeves in. My mood plummeted. So I rethreaded my machine, redid it, and then I quit for the night in terms of filming because nobody wants to see me when I'm actually crashing out. It was spectacular. But I did hand stitch the entire lining to the sleeves last night, and then I tried it on, and I have to say I'm very impressed with myself, because realistically I reckon if you saw me wearing this when it's done, obviously it's not finished, like this is all raw still, but if you saw me wearing this out on the street, with the way that the back of the neckline sits, the way that the front of the neckline sits, and the attachment of the sleeves, I don't think you'd be able to tell that I made this myself. Like, I'm pretty sure you would not have any clue that this was a homemade garment. So I'm feeling pretty chuffed about that. I haven't added the ruffles to the bottom of the sleeves yet because I don't know how much fabric I have left. So what I need to do today is measure out where I roughly want this skirt of this dress to hit, so that we can cut our panels for that. And once I've got my panels for my skirts, I will be able to figure out how much fabric I have to make the ruffles for the sleeves and also the bottom of the skirt. Ideally, I would like at least 2 times the width of each piece for the ruffles to be pleated down. I figure it looks a bit nicer. I would also, ideally, I would like to attach some ties to the sides in case I absolutely hate the way that it sits on me when I'm finished and I want to cinch my waist. But I figure I can actually always add a sash later. I don't have to do that in the making process. We're gonna power ahead. I'm gonna drink my coffee out of my ridiculously cute mug that I dug out of the cupboard this morning because I felt like having a cute coffee mug. And see if we can cobble together the rest of this dress as well as I did the bodice.
And now we are on to the skirt cutting, and this was a bit of a mission in itself. You would assume that being gingham, it would make it easy to cut everything out straight and neat in one go. But alas, linen is apparently one of those fabrics that has a mind of its own. I cut the depth of my rectangles to roughly 50 centimeters, and then I held them up to see if I wanted to keep the full width of the fabric. And here is me realizing that I cut my rectangles a little bit wonky, and we'll fix that in a minute. For the ruffles of the sleeves, I stitched the rectangles together at the short sides with French seams. I did black out here and completely forgot to take note of the dimensions, so if you're trying this, very much not a tutorial, go with your heart on this one. And once the seams were sewn, I pleated them down in a very haphazard way. We didn't do any math here, we just kind of winged it. And then we sewed them in, and I pulled out a very, very dusty Lola to finish the raw edge once I'd sewn them in. Don't ask me how she gets so dusty. I swear I do keep her covered when she's not in use, but apparently dust finds a way no matter what I cover her with. So my dear sweet overlocker, she gets a bit of dust on her, and because she's black, it shows absolutely every single speck of it. We're just going to ignore it and pretend that we didn't see it, because that's honestly how I live a lot of my life. If I don't see it, then it doesn't exist. So we're going to go with that here too.
All right, the bodice completed, 100%. I will say I never want to do rolled hems on an already pleated sleeve ever again, because that really sucked. I got the first one done, and then I took a break and had some lunch because I did not want to do the second one. But it's all done now. We've got both of them sewn, they're fully hemmed. To be honest, I probably could have done with a little bit less fabric. It feels a little bit intense on the ruffle. Let me hold it up and show you.
And with the bodice done, we are up to French seaming of the skirt panels, which is a very, very simple process and made me so, so happy.
There's a tiny spider crawling on top of my camera. So we have a friend. He was on my camera, and now he's on my scissors. So we're gonna go put him outside.
French seams are done, and now I have to pleat this down into the waist of the bodice. This was once again completely a winging it situation. I avoid math wherever I possibly can because it hurts my brain. And once I had that sewn down, I could pin down the lining and then hand stitch that so that all of my raw edges were completely 100% enclosed. I put so much effort into the finishes of this skirt and the bodice. Everything is 100% cleanly finished, and I am so happy with the way that the inside of this dress looks as well as the outside. It is, I think I've peaked here.
Look, we're going with terrible lighting because I cannot be bothered getting the light down right now, so it is what it is. But this is where I got the dress. Currently, I don't know how I feel about it, but we still have to add the ruffled hem at the bottom, so maybe that'll help. I love the top part. She real cute. But I don't know about the baby doll effect. But then again, I also haven't done any of my hair or makeup yet, so I kind of love how the further I've gotten into this making process, the less makeup I have been bothered putting on to work. Started with a full beat, ending with nothing. So the only thing we have left to do is this ruffly hem. We're gonna get that done as quickly as possible because I don't wanna, but I would kind of like to wear this tomorrow night, so. It's been a few hours since I took the last clip. Got distracted making dinner and wrapping Christmas presents because it is currently the 23rd and I had not started. So half of them are wrapped now, including like with nice bows, tags on them, all done. I've just got to do the other half. But that's not a problem for right now. I have cut out 3 strips that are the full width of my fabric, and I'm hoping that's enough to pleat down and get a decent amount of pleats around my hem. I've also realized I need to trim some of the length of this dress because the back of the bodice sits lower than the front of the bodice, which is a design feature of the original pattern. I probably should have accounted for that when I did the pattern adjustments, but you know, you live and you learn. Next time I'll take some off the back as well. But at this stage, I don't know if I'm just going to take the length off the back and sort of taper it to the front, or if I'm just going to cut the length off both sides to even it out and just deal with the fact that it's going to be shorter in the front, and I might potentially end up flashing at the end of this because I cannot be bothered trying it back on. So we're just going to wing it. We'll find out together how that turns out.
I did indeed throw caution to the wind and trimmed both the front and the back to make my life easier. Why do things the hard way when I can do it the easy way? And that is when Dorito decided to pop by and say hi. Honestly, I think he was just looking for some fabric to use as a bed because cats. I pressed forward with French seaming my ruffle, and I decided to do the rolled hem before I attached it to the skirt this time. Honestly, this was just as annoying as hemming it afterwards because the hem was stiffer than the top and it took some time to get the pleats sitting right when I was working on those. So pretty much either way sucked, but I do think it was worth the annoyance in the end.
lost bobbin roulette. And I'm not even sure how far back it ran out. So I need to rethread that. And replete a whole bunch.
So after losing bobbin roulette, I'm not going to make you lovely people sit through watching me replete and reattach that ruffle. So let's just skip to the good part, hey? So I think you can tell by my face here that I am 100% happy with how this turned out. I mean, look at how cute it is. It is the most adorable thing I have ever sewn, and honestly, I have no notes. This turned out so fantastic, and I am so happy with how it went.